we're having a conversation here today about the mind and the emotions, aren't we?
Yes.
We're talking about thinking and feeling and how that affects us, and you know what that really means. I mean, we're all either thinkers or feelers, sometimes a bit both, and that helps us or doesn't help us to connect with energy.
Yes.
In who we are. And it's great because I've got Susie and Joe here, and Joe tells us she's a thinker, and Susie's a feeler. And so they have totally different experiences and connections. You want to talk about that?
I would say probably one of my own personal biggest growths has been to, number one, acknowledge how I connect and process. And secondly, learn to open more my feeling sense so that that is a gift of connection that can take me more deeply into understanding what my mind is connected to. But it's also been so important, I have to say, so incredibly important in our relationship. I would say some of our greatest struggles have come from the opposing ways in which we have been looking to connect. And when you have somebody who approaches a situation more logically through the mind to problem solve through the mental understanding, and of course this is often through the lower mind.
Sorry, I'm just looking to see if that's recording. It doesn't look like it's recording. I just couldn't see. I don't want us to go on.
It is.
Okay. That's okay. I'll cut that out. We'll cut that out. Sorry about that. But I couldn't see it, and I was just wondering. I thought we could do 30 minutes of this because there's that funny little white thing.
Yeah, I don't know what that's called.
Yeah, it's that funny little white thing. I don't know what that is. Because we can cut the middle of the thing.
It says lesson 14, remembering the light. It's gone now. It's gone now.
I have no idea. Okay. So we'll just pick you up from where you were on thinking of things.
So, a huge lesson for me has been to understand more how I connect, and being in a relationship with somebody who connects to energy and processes their experiences far more through their feelings and emotional body. And I process far more through my mental body, and learning, of course, what's helped me there is to learn to open up through my higher mental body and process through there. But when you're on the journey of learning to connect and understand what you're connecting to, that journey for me at the beginning was, very much through the lower mind of trying to problem solve and, have an understanding for what the other person is experiencing, but it be very mental and not. And because of that, there isn't the same empathy for how they are processing, because they're having a very felt, feeling, emotional experience. And I'm sitting there going, what? I don't think so upset about it. And, why all the emotions? And my mind is just logically moving through the experience.
Yeah.
And that's not very helpful when you do have somebody who is very connected emotionally to the experience in the moment. And I also recognized through that process how afraid I was of emotions, and how, in times of conflict or dis-ease, if you've got somebody who is very much through the experiencing through things through their emotions, it can be feeling like a tsunami coming at you. And when you aren't used to that and you're not comfortable in that experience of energy, I found that incredibly challenging, and yet has taught me so very much.
Because you were willing to learn that so very
yes.
much. Yeah.
And look, I just yes, I'm the more feeling one, but I also have the mind. I think we both work through that as well. I just think it's honestly the best segue into, our beautiful universal rays. Once we understand what our soul chart is,
Yeah, that's
then
true.
we are then able to work with that. And, where your rays are, where your rays sit, where mine sit. And it gives us so much depth of understanding as to where someone is. It's, it's that next step beyond just mind and feelings.
But let's come back to feelings, because you're a very feeling.
I am a very feeling person.
And Susie does connect very much into her emotions, and and loves to be in that space too. So it's really interesting. So
it is.
And your relationship with Joe, in terms of, did you feel when Joe's not feeling what you're feeling?
Yeah, sometimes it can be very staccato in how it feels for me, because it's more black and white, and I'm less black and white. There can be the shades where the feelings come in for me. And, I then also have to take a step back and go, okay, that's me wanting to be seen or heard or felt in a different way that she is expressing in a different way through her mind. And that demonstration of, this could be work projects. We're not talking,
it could be anything.
It could be anything.
It's just life.
It's how we work and process. And it is just taking the time to, instead of me going into my hurt feelings, just coming back and really recognizing that it may not be the way I need to be seen or heard, but it is the way that Joe processes things.
Yeah. And you two were talking, and Joe was talking about that, and I'm going, this is such a twin flame reflection, isn't it? And this is when you talk about twin flame, and it says, oh, my partner's a twin flame. Well, you are twin flame reflections, because Jo's learning about her emotions through the reflection of Susie's emotions, and Susie's learning more about that mental, action sort of mode through Jo, and coming into that balance. And it can't work unless you're willing to recognize there are those two parts of our consciousness, and they don't have to be the same. But the thing is, where is the core energy coming from? Is it coming from the ego that's pushing Jo's mind to try and solve problems, and let's get this done, let's get into action here, let's problem solve, let's fix it, And that's sort of the ego lower mind way of doing this. And then, of course, Susie's with her emotions is, well, I'm feeling this. I'm in my emotions here. And this is, I'm feeling sadness, or I'm feeling anger, or I'm feeling whatever I'm feeling. And I don't want to think it out. And I don't want to get into problem solving or fixing. I just want to be in my emotions. And that's the feminine consciousness. Not being guided by the higher consciousness, but in the lower mind again. And when that reflection's being played out, which I bet you anything you consider back in your early relationship, that was happening. Yeah. And neither of you could understand why the other didn't understand you. Yeah. Which would have made you both very frustrated. And that is what happens with the twin flame consciousness, because it's about seeing that reflection and understanding it. She's operating from a different consciousness to me, and I'm operating from a different consciousness to her. But I'm willing to have a look and see what there is in this. What is there for me to learn? Which, of course, is the whole nature of partnership, isn't it? When we come together, because partners are going to reflect to us what we need to learn, no matter what that is. And if we're willing to be curious and to learn and to be patient, then we're going to learn a lot, not just about ourselves, but about them. And we're going to really honour that twin flame reflection. Because, to be honest, if you were both same twin flame, you'd be bored. You wouldn't have this drama.
Yeah.
A little bit of drama keeps us alive.
Very boring dance.
But seriously, you know, understanding that to inflame feminine consciousness, masculine consciousness, where's the consciousness operating from? Most of the time it's operating from that lower mind. And that's the ego mind that has expectations, desires, wants, and needs of the other person and of ourselves. And that's pushing either that masculine can do, let's fix it, let's solve this, or the emotional, I want to sit in this. This is how I'm feeling, so this must be true, which of course it isn't. In the same way that Joe's desire to fix things isn't true either. So it's neither true, it's just where you are at. But that's the lower mind. When you begin to connect more deeply to your spirit, then you're connecting more with the higher self. And you're connecting more with the right action, the right energy. And then you start to reflect that to each other. What happens in that case?
It's a waltz.
Yeah, magic does happen.
Magic
Yeah.
happen.
Yes,
And
magic does happen.
it becomes incredibly supportive and far more connecting. And when I say connecting, in a beautiful way of starting to really appreciate the light in its higher consciousness and the love frequency in its higher consciousness. Because Susie my mind will open to the wisdom and want to receive that.
Yeah. And the wisdom isn't the beliefs or the desires or wants or needs. Let's get this fixed, you know, sort of thing. Because I can't deal with it all. It's too hard to be emotional, you know, whatever.
No, the wisdom is what supports me to come into the acceptance of whatever that energy, whatever that consciousness is. And in time, it's also a different understanding. You know, not the mind's understanding. I often find it really hard when I do come into wisdom to even put words around it. It's something that my consciousness gets.
Yeah.
But I
And you
can't
just get it.
really.
Well, there's no
Words
belief
to it.
attached to wisdom.
Yeah.
Whereas knowledge is a belief. Like wisdom, there's no belief. Because you're working with mind. And the same thing with emotions. You know, a lot of people think their emotions are their truth. And when you come from that place, you're coming from the lower mind and ego. And that creates a lot of drama because, you know, I'm feeling this. This must be true for me because I'm feeling it. You know, how dare you say I'm not feeling it? Because I am feeling it and this must be true. But when you're coming from another place, when you're coming from the higher potential place of the love energy, which is your feminine consciousness, then you're coming into a different place that you're sensing energy flowing. What is this? And then you can then begin to realize that without dropping into the lower feeling, the lower emotion that takes you off on a tangent, that it's very hard to come out of it. And then you grab onto it, it's not truth. And of course, it's never the truth. It's that whole solar plexus energy that cripples you. And so, and you're never going to solve anything because you're not going to listen to her solve things because you're too much in that other energy. And she's sitting there completely feeling disempowered because she doesn't know what to do with what's going on for you. And then there's all this separation that comes up, you know, because there is no ability to work together. But when you stop listening to that and you begin to connect to the divine spirit and more deeply come into that connection, you no longer pulse just by your emotions. You understand your emotions aren't really the truth. It's a reaction to something. Let's go a little bit deeper to connect with what you do. And Joe's understanding that just getting on with this and trying to solve this is it's not what we need to do. We need to sit from it and sit to it.
And it has been a deep dive into mind and feelings for both of us to get to where we are and to really come into that place of acceptance of where we go.
And the thing is with all of that, it means that you have to actually bring the twin flame of unity to balance. So you're not too much in one or the other. You are harmonizing the two of them. So it means Susie needs to come more into her mind and less in her feelings, and more into her understanding of things and less in her feelings. And Jo has to come over more into her feelings, more into her senses, not her emotions, but more her senses. And when Susie's in that lower twin flame energy, she wants Jo to come into her emotions. But that's not going to help, because otherwise then you're just going to have two angry people or two emotional people not being able to do anything, So Susie needs to come into more balance with that energy and come more into the masculine a little bit, and not so much into feminine consciousness, and bring balance within herself. And Jo needs to do the same, but she needs to come more over to her senses. And senses are not emotions. Senses are connecting. And that's what Susie needs to understand too, is that emotions and senses. And also, we're not asking Susie to come into that logical, let's fix this stage at all. We're asking her to come into an understanding of what wisdom is. And that's the higher mind. That's the higher potential of the twin flame consciousness when it comes together. And as the two of them do that dance, and that comes about only from the deeper connection with spirit. The more you have that deeper connection with spirit, you're no longer guided so much from the law. And as you do that, the deeper you come into that connection, then the more you balance the twin flame within you, and then outside of you, and the reflection that's being shown to you of what's going on outside of you.
And I think that's been the greatest learning, has been coming to the, balancing of the twin flame within myself.
Yeah.
So that then in partnership it works. That as we've both done work over the years, is that we're both coming into that understanding of our own twin flame, working with that.
Yeah. Because Jo's not your twin flame.
No.
She's a reflection of your twin flame, your own twin flame. Yeah. But she's not your twin flame because she's Jo. She's not, and you're not you. And vice versa. But Susie's a reflection of what's going on in your twin flame. So your twin flame was missing that sensory connection to spirit. Yeah. And so Susie reflects that to you and says, hey, this is where you need to come more into. You're too far over here. You need to come into the center more. And then Jo's doing the same for you, saying, Susie, you're too far over there. You need to come over here and get this dance inside of you going and harmonize that. And then comes balance. And that can only come about through a deeper connection with the spirit, with your spirit. And it's not about some romantic love. Romance is great. But if you want a really deep partnership of sharing and caring, then that's the dance. It's that beautiful acceptance of the differences in all of us. And twin flames don't need to be partners. Twin flames are a sibling or a friend. Do that dance with them.
They're always going to reflect either more of the masculine or the feminine.
That's it, what they're doing. And so that's the power of the twin flame. Because it's all about the law of resonance and reflection. Say it again. And how it plays out.
Imagine how this understanding would change relationship counseling.
Oh, totally different. Totally different. Absolutely.
A very different approach to understanding
I
what's
used to
going
use
on.
it with relationship work because it's so important. It's so important to talking to that lower mind that's guiding that consciousness within us. And it's caused so much separation there. And then the balance that needs to be brought in. Yeah. And it would change so much. Relationship with ourselves, relationship with each other, and with our friends, with our siblings, with our parents, because you bet you anything, you've got a twin flame reflection in your parents.
Yeah.
And, we don't see that, but our parents also are that twin flame reflection for us.
And if it was, taught from younger ages, then you wouldn't be looking outside of yourself for this magical twin flame.
That's true.
It's really coming into the depth of your own being, looking for somebody else to fulfill that need.
And all your relationships would be so much more balanced and harmonious because you yourself have harmonized that consciousness that's in separation and brought it into balance. And the more you do that, the more you connect with spirit, the more you do The good spirit what should be.
Such a gift.
Yeah. But you know, each of you, that reflection that's in each of you is such a gift. And the beautiful thing is that both of you are willing to learn. Because how many people say, I don't want to learn this, I'm out of here with the books.
Yeah.
And you know,
They just take it into the next.
Yeah, we were just talking about that yesterday, about, you know, married 3 times, 4 times, you know, go home.
Yeah.
My mother was married 5 times, but she was in the day where you married your boyfriends.
Yeah, that would have been a really tricky time.
So she had 5 of them. So, you know, it's so interesting because we're not looking at the differences, we're not honoring the differences. We actually, it's so funny because we want the same. We want them to be like us. And then, of course, when they are like us, then we don't want them anymore. We think they're really boring. We don't want them like us.
Yeah, and not seeing the light that's really there for us to learn from.
Not seeing that we come together with people, whether it be our partners, our family, whatever, to learn and about ourselves, not about someone else.
I mean, that one concept alone, you know, just to open up to that one understanding alone is would shift dynamics within all sorts of relationships.
It would, definitely. Yeah. Work, family, marriages.
How many people believe
friends.
that, you know, relationships are about a list of agendas?
Oh, well, that is.
You know, rather than
Expectations,
this beautiful opportunity to come and learn about yourself.
And that's why we need them. We learn about ourselves, and all our relationships are showing us about us, about our divine spirit and the consciousness of us. And when we choose to learn, then marvelous.
Yeah. It's been a journey of growth.
Yeah. And there's so much more to come.
Yes.
No. Yes, I'm so lucky to know these 2 beautiful beings. They're just so wonderful. Thank you both for being here. Thank you so much for doing this today. That's great. Yeah. So nice.
I'm sure people are able to relate. What we're speaking to is happening in everybody's homes and offices
Everywhere.
and you know, playgrounds, and you know, if we could just bring a little bit more light into what is actually occurring or trying to occur, then maybe we'd have a different experience and we'd start to navigate that experience.
We would certainly move to that place. And we honour the differences we have in the teaching that, or the learning that we can have from having any relationship. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great cup of tea.